than a couple of hurricanes. Let me bring in Sean Spicer, Communications Director for the Republican National Committee, coming to us from their camera as we see the elephant behind. Good morning, Sean. How are you?
Good morning, Chris. I'm doing great, thank you.
Mitt Romney, during the debate, and we just played that clip, suggested sending disaster management back to the states or even the private sector. Isn't that essentially suggesting eliminating or at the very least curtailing strongly FEMA?
No, it's doing exactly what he just said, which is letting the states and localities lead because they know what's best when it comes to their states. And you're seeing that right now, whether it's Governor Bob McDonnell in Virginia, Governor Christie in New Jersey, or as you just pointed out, Mayor Bloomberg in New York, who are saying, hey, we know exactly what we need in our state, or in the case of New York City, we know what needs to get done, how to do it best. We know where everything's located.
But isn't that essentially the way FEMA
I think
works?
Hold on, Chris, what the governor said and what his point is that the federal government should let states lead where they know best and in localities where they know best. Getting the federal government in the middle of a disaster situation where immediate response is crucial, helping those in need and having firsthand local knowledge about where things are, where assets are pre-stationed, and how to do it most effectively without the red tape and the bureaucracy of the government is probably the most effective way to help people in need.
Well, but that's the way it works now, because in consultation with the people who were going to be affected by this, the FEMA resources were put into place, ready to go. Both Mayor Bloomberg and Chris Christie have been effusive in their praise of FEMA and how it works. They make the request, they know where the need is, and FEMA comes in and acts. Isn't that the way it works now?
Well, as Susan pointed out in her comments earlier, it hasn't always worked that way. And I think that one of the things that we had with this storm in particular was a very big heads up. We knew it was coming. We had plenty of time to prepare and pre-position things to the extent that we could. That's not always the case, as everyone knows, whether it's a hurricane or an earthquake or another type of natural disaster that comes out of nowhere, that there's not always the ability to do that. And I think FEMA does have a history of getting in the middle, a lot of red tape and a lot of bureaucracy. And there are ways to streamline that.
Is there an example in this administration that you could say where there's been a problem?
Not that. No, I think Susan was the one who brought it up, talking about how in the past, and there's been several instances going back, but I think in this case, we did have a large amount of lead time to get prepared for this. So I think that the governor, whether it's FEMA or any function of government, is trying to figure out how we can have the most effective and efficient government that provides the best services to people without allowing the government to get in the way in terms of red tape and bureaucracy. I think that's what we all want as taxpayers.
Let me show you the latest round of swing state polls. It shows the president up by 5 in Ohio. Can you win without Ohio? And is concern about Ohio the reason that you're advertising now in places like Pennsylvania and Minnesota, because you're worried about your path to 270?
Oh, absolutely not. We're expanding the map. I mean, I think this isn't a question of 270. It's a question of 300 or more. And when you look at Ohio, frankly, I disagree with that. I think we're doing extremely well in Ohio. This is a state where, 6-7 weeks ago, the president was up 10, then 6 and 5, and we have this dead even or better in our direction. Our ground game in Ohio is second to none. We feel very, very good about Ohio. And what we've been able to do because of the amount of support that's coming from Governor Romney is...
I just want to stop you there. If your ground game is 2-1, why is early voting going 2-1 for Obama?
Because I think you're looking at a very top level number and saying how many votes did they put in, how many votes did we put in. When you look at percentage of registration, we're outperforming our registration in the state. They're underperforming. When you look at where we are in terms of 2008, we're overperforming what we did in 2008. They're underperforming in 2008. We have a lot more election day voters. They have spent their entire time cannibalizing their what we call high propensity voters, people who have a history of voting every election on election day. They've gone out and gotten them to vote early. We have spent our time getting people that we consider what we call low propensity voters, those who might have only voted in 1 out of 4 elections, and really spending our time focused on getting them at the polls. We have a majority of our folks that will vote on election day. And again, if you look at the data and say whether it's 2008 or percentage of registration, we are outperforming in every one of these battleground states. That's causing a significant concern from Chicago. It's what what's allowing us to expand the map into places like Minnesota and Pennsylvania. You look at what Jim Messina said, Chris, a couple months ago in his video. He talked about the many paths to 270 for President Obama. They considered states like New Hampshire, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, all safe Obama seats. Now they are going up on advertising, sending their surrogates in because they are on defense on states that they considered very safe for Obama, whereas Governor Romney is able to now expand the map into states that were considered outside of that window, and that includes states like Wisconsin as well, that were considered so-called safe seats, double-digit states that the president carried in 2008.
Sean, we have to let that be the last word, but thanks so much for coming on the program. It's good to see you.
You bet. Thanks, Chris.
Susan, let's talk more about the polls. Gallup